big love of mine. Like I said earlier on, it was also my major at University Afrikaans and Dutch, and most of the time I specialized in the literature, the prose, and the poetry. And from early on, I knew I would like to write, and so I did, and I've done a couple of works in the over the years.
And what inspires these stories?
Yes, it differs, but it's usually something, just something that makes me think, something that's kind of more mysterious. My debut was a just a collection, a small collection of short stories with the title Dubbelfoto. It's double photo. So I saw a photograph, I've still got it, that just made me think, what happened there? What is that? And the moment when I get such a spark, it sparks my imagination, because I love it when I know I don't know, and when I've also got a hunch I'm not going to find out. So that's for me a nice creative space to play in. So it's often something like that. The last one was also like that, where I heard a story, and then I heard the same story told many times to me by different people, and every time the story was fundamentally different. And then I started with archival work. I worked for a couple of years, and I did so much research to try and uncover the story, realizing the more you do research, the more you know that you don't know, and you will never know. And that's why also I named the title of a novel in Afrikaans is a roman.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I also named it roman. So the novel is called novel. It's a roman. And a roman is also in South Africa. It's a spider. I don't know if you know them. Solifigae in Latin. Those big ugly things. Yes, solifigae means scared of the sun. So when you walk in the Karoo, they sometimes run after you, and you're scared because you think they want to bite you, but they don't want to bite you. They want to get into your shadow. So the idea of the roman is that he will always try to hide from the sun. He will always try to get out of the light. And I think to a large extent, the historical novel, My Roman, is also hiding from the light, going to the shadows, knowing that you will always be hiding the truth. And that's the one thing that's always unattainable. So that's a kind of a grouped around but it's a true historical figure that I worked with. It's the last person to be publicly executed in the town where I grew up. And he was one serious serial killer on a farmer.
Really?
And nobody really knows how many people he murdered, etc. And everybody, depending on who you are, depending on your affiliation to him, maybe your family, or for other reasons, you tell his story in the way that suits you. And so it's just lovely. If you go to the town of Oudtshoorn and you go to the museum there, that big wooden block, what do you call it? It's a strafblok in Afrikaans, in which they held with screws the prisoners, in which he sat. He's for the last month before his execution, he sat in that thing in George, in the main road, where he was held in the jail, and it's still there. It's still there in the museum.
And what year did you say was this?
It was in April 1856 that he was executed there. Yes. And then it's what's fascinating about somebody like that, always the photographs. Then there's this photograph of this man with his little boy on his lap. The most beautiful, angelic little boy, and this guy looking like a father. I mean, that just adds to the reason why you have to write a novel about this, because what is going on here? He was probably the most loving father, caring for his family, etc., etc. But what he used to do, he was a rich cattle farmer. So he used to, the prospectors came, and then they bought the cattle from him. And as they left the farm, they had to go through what was called the Waterkloof. Okay, so between two hills they had to go through. And he had a very specific kind of South African dog. It's called a Boerboel. It's a very
Okay.
serious breed. And then as soon as they're there, he freed his dogs. The rest I can't even tell you, but that's how he got his money back. And he got rid of the prospectors by throwing them into the Gourits River, etc., etc. So it's a and
And
why
that's a
and
true
it took.
story.
Yes, I mean, but which parts are true and which parts aren't true?
Oh, okay.
And it's very difficult to ascertain that even if you go to the archives in Cape Town, because what I later realized is depending on the judges, he had to go to court. He spent 2 years on Robben Island as well in his younger days for assault, but it all depended on the judge because back in the day, they didn't want to find a white man guilty.
Oh, I
It
see.
was to a large extent also, it was one of the reasons. It was when they changed the judge in the end that the whole story also changed. But in any case, that's enough about
No, but it's so interesting.
about this person.
No, but it's so interesting. And how did you get the information from the archives? Was it easy to go there and say, look, I
No,
want
it was very difficult. I don't have the skills, but I'm lucky. My publisher, the head of the publishing house with whom I work, I know him quite well. It's Dr. Nicole Stassen, and he is a historian. He's got his PhD in history, and he's very good with archival work. So we had a meeting, and I explained to him, and he said, "Yeah, give me some time." So he sent me an email with a list of numbers and codes and things. And he said, take this with you. And I thought they're going to give me one, set of files, but they actually opened up a room with me and brought me boxes and boxes and boxes of court cases from the early 19th century. There was so much to work through. And I realized when I was there, I mean, everybody in the past have written a newspaper or magazine article. Leipold wrote a short story on this. A lot of people have worked on this, but nobody's ever been in the archives to get the files. Nobody's ever actually read the data that we do have. Everybody's building on this one story. It's hearsay all the time, hearsay, hearsay, hearsay. And where is the truth in all of that? Which is in the end, yeah, wonderfully unattainable. and I think in the end, my novel is just adding to the mystery. Don't believe a word. Don't believe a word.
But isn't it a bit frustrating as well? If you get all this information, you have to source through it and make up your mind what is, not really the truth then.
Yes, but luckily I'm not in a. When I got my writing cap on, I'm not an historian, so I don't have the obligation that they've got. I work with a lot of freedom, but maybe mine's closer to the truth than theirs. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
Some imagination.
But this is wonderful. But it just shows you how a story can develop, and it also how it can captivate, and go through history and be something just because of this historical happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also the previous one was also based, I called it the slaghuis, the butchery. And it's based on basically dealing with our very unique sad South African history, revisiting some of the things that happened in our dark apartheid past. But then I've got two lines, one set in the 90s and one set in our current day, roughly. And to see, through generations, what happened, etc. With the core metaphor running through it all is working with meat. As South Africans, we understand that.
Yeah.